Rebuilding requires reinvention because the person you were yesterday cannot carry the weight of who you are meant to become. Every old habit, every outdated mindset, and every limitation that once defined you has to be re-examined, questioned, and discarded if it no longer serves your future. To rebuild is to declare that your past achievements, failures, and even comforts are not sufficient to carry you forward. You cannot renovate when what is needed is transformation, and true transformation demands a new blueprint for life, a new way of thinking, a new standard for what you accept from yourself and the world. Reinvention begins with self-awareness. You must be brutally honest with yourself about where you are and where you need to go. The foundation of any rebuild is the clarity that comes from seeing the gaps between your current state and your ultimate potential. Without this clarity, any effort you put forth will be scattered, unfocused, and likely to produce incremental results at best. Rebuilding is about identifying those gaps, confronting the truths you have ignored, and committing to closing them, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. To reinvent yourself, you must first let go of who you were. The old version of yourself, with all its routines and habits, has served a purpose, but it is now obsolete. Clinging to old identities keeps you tethered to mediocrity and prevents you from experiencing the growth you are capable of. The act of letting go is not passive. It is a conscious decision to release fear, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs, to break the chains of familiarity and to step into an unknown but far greater version of yourself. Reinvention also requires vision. You must clearly define the version of yourself that you are building toward. A rebuild without vision is like constructing a building without a blueprint. You may end up with something, but it will never be as strong, effective, or impressive as it could be. This vision should not be influenced by the expectations or limitations of others. It must be a vision born from your own potential, ambition, and desire to live a life that reflects your highest self. The process of reinvention is fueled by courage to face your past failures, courage to challenge the comfort of old habits, courage to step into uncharted territory, and courage to risk disappointment and resistance along the way. Every act of rebuilding requires boldness because the easier path is always to remain in what is familiar and safe. True reinvention demands that you operate outside your comfort zone consistently until the new version of you is no longer just a possibility, but a reality. Discipline becomes the engine that drives reinvention. Ideas, inspiration, and desire are important, but without consistent action, they remain dormant. Every small choice you make, every disciplined habit you adopt, and every deliberate step you take contributes to the construction of the new you. Reinvention is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice of aligning your actions with the person you intend to become, even when the old version of you whispers that it's easier to quit or compromise. Rebuilding also requires reshaping your environment, your surroundings, the people you associate with, and the influences you allow into your life either support or sabotage your reinvention. To construct something new, you cannot rely on the old framework. The right environment cultivates growth, challenges you to rise higher, and reinforces the new standards you are setting. Reinvention is often a social and environmental process as much as an internal one, requiring careful choices about what and who you allow to impact your transformation. Reinvention demands resilience. Change is uncomfortable, progress is slow, and setbacks are inevitable. Every rebuild encounters resistance from within yourself and from the world around you. It is resilience that keeps you moving when doubt, fear, and failure try to pull you back into your old self. Each obstacle becomes an opportunity to test your commitment to the process, to strengthen your resolve, and to reinforce the foundation of the new version of yourself. Creativity and adaptability are essential components of reinvention. The old ways of thinking, behaving, and responding will not suffice in building a new life. You must be willing to experiment, to pivot when necessary, and to innovate in how you approach challenges. Reinvention is not about replicating someone else's success. It is about crafting a unique path that aligns with your vision, leveraging your strengths, learning from your failures, and continuously refining your approach until it produces the results you desire. Finally, reinvention is a declaration of your potential and your refusal to settle for less than what you are capable of becoming. It is a bold act of self-determination that signals to yourself and the world that you are committed to growth, excellence, and transformation. Every thought, choice, and action becomes part of this deliberate construction of a new life. Rebuilding yourself through reinvention is a powerful commitment to never allowing the past to dictate the future and to constantly evolve into the highest version of yourself. Rewriting your internal narrative is the most powerful step you can take toward transforming your life, because the story you tell yourself shapes the actions you take, the decisions you make, and the results you achieve. Every person operates from an internal script, a set of beliefs, assumptions, and self-perceptions that dictate what they think is possible. If that script is filled with limitation, doubt, or fear, then no matter how much effort you put in, your progress will always be capped by the boundaries of that story. To change your life, you must first change the story you tell yourself, because transformation begins on the inside before it manifests on the outside. Your internal narrative is formed over years of experiences, influences, and messages from the world around you. Family, teachers, friends, society, and even media all contribute to shaping the way you perceive yourself and your potential. Many of these messages are unconscious, absorbed without question, and repeated over and over until they feel like undeniable truth. The first step in rewriting your narrative is awareness, recognizing which beliefs serve you and which ones hold you back. Until you identify the false narratives you've internalized, you cannot replace them with empowering truths. Once you identify the limiting beliefs, the next step is to confront them head on. It's not enough to simply acknowledge them. You must actively question their validity. Ask yourself, is this true? Who said this about me? Does this define my potential? Most of the stories we carry are based on assumptions, fears, or external expectations rather than reality. Confronting these narratives requires courage because it challenges the very foundation on which you've built your self-perception. But it is only through this confrontation that you create space for new, empowering beliefs to take root. Rewriting your internal narrative requires intentionality in what you feed your mind. Thoughts are the building blocks of your internal story. And if you allow negativity, doubt, or fear to dominate, your narrative will remain disempowering. You must consciously choose the thoughts, affirmations, and mental images that reinforce the version of yourself you want to become. This is not superficial positivity. It is deliberate mental conditioning that rewires your brain to see possibilities, recognize opportunities, and act in alignment with your potential. Your words, both spoken and unspoken, are extensions of your internal narrative. The language you use when you speak to yourself or about yourself carries immense weight. Phrases like, I can't, I'm not enough, or this is impossible reinforce limitation, while phrases like, I am capable, I am growing, and I am in control of my destiny build empowerment. Rewriting your narrative requires vigilance over your self-talk, transforming it from a source of doubt into a source of strength. Every word becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you are constructing. Surrounding yourself with influences that align with your new narrative accelerates the transformation. Your internal story is reinforced by the people you interact with, the content you consume, and the environments you inhabit. If your surroundings constantly echo old, limiting messages, your rewritten narrative will struggle to take hold. Choosing influences that challenge, inspire, and elevate you ensures that your internal narrative is continuously supported and strengthened. Rewriting your internal narrative also demands that you take responsibility for your past story without letting it define your future. The experiences that shaped you, both triumphs and failures, must be acknowledged, but they should not dictate the possibilities ahead. By reframing past experiences as lessons rather than limitations, you reclaim control over the story of your life. Each setback becomes material for growth, each mistake a stepping stone, and each challenge an opportunity to reinforce a narrative of resilience and capability. Consistency is key in shaping a new internal narrative. One thought, one affirmation, or one intentional action will not be enough to overwrite years of ingrained beliefs. Daily practice, repetition, and reinforcement are necessary to ensure that your mind internalizes the new story. Journaling, visualization, affirmations, and conscious reflection are tools that help you maintain focus on the narrative you want to live by. Over time, what begins as conscious effort becomes automatic, and your internal story becomes a natural reflection of your potential. Rewriting your internal narrative also requires flexibility. As you grow, your story must evolve to match your expanding vision and capabilities. Holding on to an internal narrative that once served you but no longer aligns with your aspirations will create internal conflict and stagnation. Being willing to adapt, update, and refine your story ensures that your internal narrative remains a source of motivation and clarity rather than a constraint. Finally, the internal narrative you construct shapes not only how you see yourself, but how the world sees you. People respond to the energy, confidence, and clarity you project. When your internal story is one of empowerment, purpose, and resilience, your actions, decisions, and relationships all align with that story. Rewriting your narrative is not just about changing thoughts. It is about creating a lived reality that reflects the highest version of yourself, influencing every aspect of your life through the power of the story you choose to tell. A new level demands new standards because the person you were yesterday cannot achieve the results you are capable of tomorrow. Every level of success in life is tied directly to the expectations you set for yourself. If you continue operating under the same standards that produced your past results, you will remain stuck at that same level. Growth is never accidental, it is intentional. To reach new heights, you must consciously raise the bar for what you accept in your work, your relationships, your mindset, and your daily habits. New standards begin with clarity. You must define what the next level looks like in every area of your life. Ambiguity creates complacency. And without a clear picture of what success looks like, you will not have a benchmark to measure your progress. Whether it is financial growth, personal development, health, or relationships, having a defined expectation sets the stage for action. Clarity transforms vague desires into specific objectives and lays the foundation for the higher standards required to achieve them. Elevating your standards requires courage. It is easy to settle for mediocrity because it is familiar and comfortable, but comfort does not create growth. Setting higher standards often means doing things you have never done before, challenging yourself in ways that feel uncomfortable, and consistently pushing past the fear of failure. Courage is the fuel that allows you to step beyond what is easy and reach for what is extraordinary, even when the odds feel stacked against you. New standards demand discipline. It is not enough to want more. You must commit to consistent actions that reflect the level of excellence you are striving for. Discipline is the bridge between vision and reality. It is the daily effort, the small choices, and the repeated actions that build momentum over time. Without discipline, high standards remain abstract ideals rather than lived experiences, and progress becomes sporadic rather than sustainable. Accountability is a key component of raising your standards. You must hold yourself responsible for meeting the expectations you set, and you must do so without excuses. External circumstances may challenge you, people may doubt you, and obstacles will arise, but accountability ensures that you remain committed to the path you have chosen. The higher your standards, the more rigorous your accountability must be, because anything less will compromise the level of excellence you are building toward. Surrounding yourself with influences that reflect the standards you aspire to is essential. The people you spend time with, the environments you inhabit, and the content you consume all shape your behaviors and expectations. If you maintain old associations that operate at a lower level, your progress will be slowed and your new standards will be diluted. Choosing influences that challenge, inspire, and elevate you accelerates growth and reinforces the higher standards you are cultivating. Raising your standards requires a mindset shift. You must stop negotiating with yourself and start expecting excellence in every area of your life. This means refusing to settle for average results, ignoring shortcuts that compromise quality, and rejecting the limitations that have held you back. A mindset aligned with higher standards sees obstacles as opportunities, challenges as growth, and failure as feedback rather than a final verdict. Measurement and reflection are critical in maintaining elevated standards. You cannot improve what you do not evaluate. Consistently reviewing your progress, assessing whether your actions align with your objectives, and making adjustments when necessary ensures that your standards are more than theoretical. They become a measurable, actionable part of your daily life. Reflection turns awareness into refinement, allowing you to continuously elevate what you accept from yourself. New standards also demand patience. Growth is rarely instantaneous, and the higher the standard, the greater the time, effort, and persistence required. Impatience often leads to shortcuts, compromises, or abandonment of goals, which undermines the very standards you are trying to achieve. True progress is built on sustained commitment, the willingness to persevere through challenges, and the understanding that the path to excellence is a marathon, not a sprint. Finally, adopting new standards is a declaration of self-respect and self-worth. It communicates to yourself and the world that you are not willing to settle for less than you deserve. Your standards define the boundaries of your life, the quality of your relationships, the level of your achievements, and the trajectory of your future. By raising them, you create a framework that demands growth, rewards effort, and ensures that the new level you are reaching is a true reflection of your potential. Belief determines behavior because the way you perceive yourself and your potential directly influences the actions you take every day. Your thoughts, convictions, and expectations form the foundation for your decisions, and those decisions become the blueprint for your results. If you believe you are capable, resilient, and deserving of success, your behavior will naturally align with that belief. Conversely, if you doubt your abilities or fear failure, your actions will reflect hesitation, avoidance, and compromise. Belief is the internal compass that guides the trajectory of your life. Every action you take is fueled by what you hold as true in your mind. People do not act beyond their belief systems. No matter how much training, knowledge, or opportunity you have, if your mind cannot envision success, your behavior will be limited to what feels safe and achievable. Belief expands the boundaries of possibility, enabling you to attempt things that others may deem impossible. It acts as a catalyst that converts intention into execution and potential into results. Belief is reinforced through repetition and confirmation. The more you practice the mindset of possibility, the more it shapes your actions. Your behavior begins to reflect the belief that challenges are opportunities, that setbacks are temporary, and that obstacles can be overcome. Each time you act in alignment with your belief, it strengthens the internal conviction, creating a feedback loop that produces consistent, elevated results. Behavior and belief are not separate. They are intertwined, each influencing and amplifying the other. Limiting beliefs restrict behavior, often without conscious awareness. People frequently hold assumptions about their abilities, their worth, or the likelihood of success. And these assumptions dictate the choices they make. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of the unknown are often the byproducts of unexamined beliefs. By identifying and challenging these limiting beliefs, you open the door to new behaviors that reflect courage, initiative, and determination, allowing you to step beyond the confines of what you previously thought was possible. Belief shapes your level of confidence and resilience. When you truly believe in your capacity to handle challenges, you approach difficult situations with composure, creativity, and persistence. You are less likely to be paralyzed by doubt and more likely to take decisive action. On the other hand, weak or wavering belief produces hesitation, inconsistency, and a tendency to give up when faced with obstacles. The stronger your belief, the more naturally your behavior reflects perseverance, focus, and strategic effort. Your environment also interacts with belief to influence behavior. Surrounding yourself with people who reinforce positive beliefs and encourage growth strengthens your confidence and motivates action. Conversely, negative or toxic environments can erode belief, creating self-doubt and fear-based behaviors. Choosing associations that reflect and amplify your vision ensures that your actions are supported by a network that aligns with your internal convictions and reinforces your potential. Belief drives commitment and discipline. When you genuinely believe in the value of your goals and the possibility of achieving them, you are more willing to endure challenges, delays, and discomfort. Commitment is the outward expression of belief. Discipline is the day-to-day execution that turns belief into tangible results. Without belief, there is little motivation to sustain effort over the long term, and consistency falters. Strong belief fuels the persistence necessary to maintain high standards of action, even when circumstances are difficult. Visualization and mental rehearsal are tools that strengthen belief and, by extension, influence behavior. By vividly imagining success, rehearsing desired outcomes, and internalizing a sense of capability, you train your mind to act in ways consistent with the belief that your goals are achievable. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is experienced. So consistent mental rehearsal creates behaviors that align with the belief in your own potential. Belief also governs how you respond to failure and feedback. When belief in your abilities is strong, setbacks are interpreted as lessons rather than confirmations of inadequacy. This perspective shapes behavior by encouraging learning, adaptation, and resilience rather than avoidance, resignation, or self-sabotage. People with strong beliefs about their capabilities tend to act decisively, learn quickly from mistakes, and continue moving forward despite challenges, whereas those with weak beliefs may withdraw, procrastinate, or give up entirely. Ultimately, belief is the architect of behavior because it defines what you consider possible, acceptable, and achievable. Your actions, choices, and habits are reflections of the convictions you hold within your mind. Every extraordinary achievement begins with belief, and every limitation begins with doubt. To change behavior permanently, you must first change the underlying belief that drives it, because behavior without belief is inconsistent, fragile, and easily derailed by external circumstances, while belief-infused behavior is powerful, consistent, and unstoppable. Taking full responsibility for transformation is the cornerstone of personal growth, because real change cannot occur until you own every aspect of your life, both the successes and the failures. Transformation begins with the recognition that no one else is responsible for your growth, your results, or the quality of your life. Blaming circumstances, other people, or external factors only keeps you trapped in a cycle of excuses and stagnation. To rebuild yourself, you must embrace the truth that you are the primary agent of your own transformation, and your life will reflect the level of responsibility you are willing to accept. Responsibility requires honesty. You must confront the areas of your life where you have fallen short, avoided action, or compromised your potential. This means examining habits, choices, and patterns that have hindered your progress and acknowledging your role in them. Without this brutal honesty, transformation becomes superficial, leaving old behaviors and limiting mindsets intact. Taking responsibility is about facing reality as it is, not as you wish it were, and committing to change from that foundation of truth. When you take responsibility for transformation, you reclaim control over your future. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every effort you commit to shapes the trajectory of your life. Instead of waiting for opportunities to appear or for circumstances to align, you actively create the conditions for growth. Empowerment comes from knowing that your outcomes are largely determined by your own choices. And with that understanding, you can move from passivity to purposeful action. Taking responsibility also requires accountability. It is not enough to want change. You must be willing to answer to yourself for the actions you take or fail to take. Accountability ensures that your transformation is consistent, deliberate, and measurable. By holding yourself accountable, you maintain focus on your goals, avoid self-sabotage, and reinforce the discipline needed to sustain meaningful progress. Transformation becomes a process of ownership where every step forward is recognized and every misstep is corrected. Transformation demands self-awareness. Understanding your strengths, weaknesses, patterns, and triggers allows you to navigate change effectively. Taking responsibility means actively observing your thoughts, behaviors, and decisions without defensiveness or blame. Self-awareness enables you to identify what is working and what is not, and it equips you with the insight needed to implement corrective measures. Without this level of awareness, you cannot fully direct your transformation or make intentional choices that support your growth. Responsibility for transformation extends to your mindset. You must take ownership of your beliefs, attitudes, and internal dialogue because these shape your actions and ultimately your results. A mindset of empowerment, positivity, and resilience fuels consistent effort, while a mindset of doubt or victimhood hinders progress. Choosing to cultivate beliefs that support your transformation is an act of responsibility, ensuring that your internal world aligns with the external change you are pursuing. Taking responsibility also means embracing discomfort. Transformation is rarely easy, and growth often comes with challenges, resistance, and uncertainty. When you accept responsibility, you commit to enduring the necessary discomfort rather than avoiding it. You recognize that pain, setbacks, and failures are not signs of defeat, but opportunities for learning and improvement. Ownership of the process allows you to persist when others quit, because you understand that true transformation requires perseverance beyond temporary difficulty. Responsibility for transformation requires taking deliberate action. Knowledge, intention, and desire alone are insufficient to create change. You must actively engage in behaviors, routines, and practices that align with the person you are becoming. Every small step counts, and every consistent effort compounds over time. By acting intentionally and taking ownership of your daily decisions, you ensure that transformation is not left to chance, but is the result of consistent, purposeful work. Taking full responsibility also means rejecting excuses. Life will always present challenges, distractions, and reasons to justify inaction. But true transformation comes from refusing to let these excuses dictate your progress. Excuses are a form of abdication. They hand over your power to external circumstances. When you eliminate excuses, you reclaim your power, and every obstacle becomes an opportunity to demonstrate resilience, creativity, and determination in service of your growth. Finally, taking responsibility for transformation is a declaration of self-mastery. It signals that you will no longer allow your past, environment, or other people to define your outcomes. It is a commitment to rise above victimhood and step fully into the role of the architect of your life. By owning every decision, every action, and every outcome, you position yourself to build the future you desire, and the transformation you seek becomes not a possibility, but an inevitable result of your deliberate and accountable efforts. Action is the key to unlock your future, because ideas, dreams, and intentions alone are powerless without execution. Many people spend their lives thinking, planning, and hoping, yet they never see their visions materialize because they fail to take decisive steps toward them. Action transforms potential into reality, turning abstract concepts into measurable results. It is the bridge between where you are now and the life you desire, and without it, progress remains impossible, no matter how compelling your vision may be. Every future you want begins with a single step. That first act of courage, no matter how small, sets the trajectory for everything that follows. Waiting for the perfect moment or ideal conditions only delays progress, because perfection is an illusion and circumstances are rarely flawless. Action demands initiative, the willingness to start despite uncertainty, discomfort, or fear. It is the commitment to move forward even when the path is unclear, because momentum is built by doing, not by contemplating. Consistency in action is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Sporadic effort may produce occasional results, but lasting transformation is the result of repeated, disciplined action over time. Every day that you act intentionally in alignment with your goals compounds your progress, while inaction allows opportunity to slip away. The key to unlocking your future lies not in grand gestures alone, but in the steady, persistent steps that accumulate to create extraordinary results. Action requires courage. To act is to face fear, resistance, and uncertainty head on. Many people fail to take the necessary steps because they are afraid of failure, rejection, or the unknown. Courage is the fuel that allows you to act despite these fears, knowing that every attempt, whether successful or not, brings you closer to the outcome you seek. The willingness to act in spite of doubt is what differentiates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Taking action is also about responsibility. You must recognize that your results are the product of your choices and efforts. Blaming circumstances or waiting for someone else to create opportunity only prolongs stagnation. By taking ownership and acting decisively, you position yourself as the architect of your own destiny. Each decision to act is a declaration that you are not a passive observer in life, but an active participant shaping your future. Action transforms knowledge into power. You may learn, study, and gather insights, but knowledge alone cannot change your life. It is through action that ideas are tested, refined, and applied. Every experiment, every attempt, and every step taken toward your goals teaches you lessons that cannot be learned through theory alone. Action is the vehicle that carries knowledge from the mind into the world, producing tangible results and accelerating growth. Action also builds confidence. Every step you take, no matter how small, reinforces the belief in your ability to affect change. Success breeds confidence, and confidence fuels further action. By consistently acting toward your goals, you create a positive cycle of momentum, self-assurance, and achievement. The more you act, the more capable you feel, and the more empowered you become to tackle bigger challenges. Action requires focus and prioritization. Not every activity moves you closer to your goals, and scattered efforts can lead to frustration and stagnation. Identifying the highest leverage actions, the steps that produce the greatest impact, and committing to them is essential for unlocking your future. Focus ensures that your energy is spent on what truly matters, creating meaningful progress rather than busy work. Persistence is a key element of action. Rarely does a single attempt yield the desired outcome. Transformation and success demand repeated effort, resilience in the face of setbacks, and the willingness to try again after failure. Each action, even if it does not produce immediate results, is a step toward mastery and eventual achievement. The commitment to persistent action distinguishes those who succeed from those who quit prematurely. Finally, action creates opportunity. Every move you make opens doors, reveals new possibilities, and generates momentum. The future is not a passive destination. It is built through deliberate effort. Inaction ensures that doors remain closed, opportunities pass by, and potential is wasted. By taking consistent, purposeful action, you actively construct the reality you desire, and each step you take brings you closer to the life you were meant to create.